Imagine being like a quiet rural scholar, right?
Okay.
You're just minding your own business. You're studying complex systems in your temporary residence, and then suddenly a squad of plainclothes police just kicks down your door.
Oh, wow. Just out of nowhere.
Literally out of nowhere. They raid your electronics, they confiscate everything down to discarded hard drives, and eventually they send you to prison for 20 months.
I mean, that sounds like the inciting incident of some dystopian thriller.
It really does. But your crime, the reason they did all this, clicking retweet on a handful of posts to like fewer than 100 followers.
Which is just, it's entirely real, too. It's a heavily documented event.
Yeah, exactly. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring the fascinating, surreal, and frankly chilling legal case of Dr. Chen Jingyuan.
Right. He's a Chinese physics PhD and a researcher of complex systems, correct?
He is. And the stack of sources we're pulling from today is just massive. We're looking at primary legal documents, so the official indictment, the trial verdict, the appellate ruling.
Oh, and we also have that remarkable letter, right?
Yes, a 20,000-word self-defense letter, what he actually calls a blood letter, that Dr. Chen wrote from inside a prison cell.
Incredible.
Plus, we're analyzing a comprehensive legal review of his case that was conducted by 6 major AI language models. So we've got a lot to unpack.
We really do. But before we really get into the weeds, we do need to make a quick note to you, the listener.
Right, good point.
The sources we're unpacking today contain some highly politically charged material. It involves both Chinese and U.S. political figures. And our goal in this deep dive is to impartially report on this content, strictly to, convey the facts of this specific legal case.
Exactly. We are not endorsing any political viewpoints found in these documents.
Right. We're simply mapping out the ideas and the events exactly as they appear in the primary source material.
Yeah, our mission today is really to explore this profound collision between state legal power and pure scientific logic.
It's basically about what happens when a physicist uses network topology and quantum theory to defend himself against a notoriously vague criminal charge.
Yeah, and to understand how a scientist ends up writing what is basically a theoretical physics paper as a legal defense from a prison cell, we have to look at the sheer disproportionate reality of that initial raid.
Right. So let's go back to September 2022 in Kunming.
Okay.
The police raid his residence without even presenting a warrant. They pull him in, and according to Dr. Chen's accounts, they subject him to 24 hours of interrogation.
Which is just grueling.
Oh, it gets worse. This included deprivation of food and sleep, basically until they broke him down enough to extract the passwords for his digital devices.
Right, and the natural assumption there is that they must be hunting for something massive, like a conspiracy or a major leak of state secrets to justify that kind of response.
You would think so. But they charged him with a crime known in the Chinese legal system as picking quarrels and provoking trouble.
Right, which the sources often refer to as a pocket crime.
Exactly. It's essentially a catch-all charge. Authorities can just pull it out of their pocket when they want to lock someone up, but, they don't have a specific statute that fits the action.
So what was the specific allegation for Dr. Chen?
The allegation was that he used a VPN to access Twitter, which is now known as X, and spread false information that caused severe public disorder.
Okay, but looking at the actual evidence they gathered is where this just tips into dark comedy for me.
Oh, totally.
They found fewer than 100 retweets spread out over several years.
Wow.
And this was on an account that had fewer than 100 followers, most of which were likely just inactive accounts or bots anyway.
Right, and the content itself falls into 4 highly subjective categories.
Let's break those down.
So first, there's artistic expression. We're talking about like a cartoon of a girl with an umbrella.
Yeah.
Or a satirical drawing of Xi Jinping and Donald Trump.
Okay, that's one.
Then there were emotional posts, like a picture of a candle memorializing June 4th.
Right.
Third is political commentary, including retweeting a speech by Donald Trump criticizing communism and some articles by dissident scholars.
And the fourth category?
Historical data. Specifically, posts discussing edits that were made to Mao Zedong's selected works.
Okay, wait, let's unpack this for a second.
Right.
The entire apparatus of state security kicked down a door over a cartoon viewed by virtually nobody.
Basically, yeah.
But how can a drawing of a girl with an umbrella or a speech by a foreign politician even be legally classified as a rumor or false information? I mean, aren't those just opinions in art?
You've hit on the exact issue. That philosophical failure is the central legal flaw of the entire prosecution.
Because a cartoon isn't a factual claim.
Exactly. You can't fact-check a feeling of grief represented by a candle.
Yeah.
The authorities completely blurred the line between a verifiable fact and subjective expression.
Yeah.
And rather than, correcting that flaw, the court just contorted itself into some baffling legal gymnastics to justify a guilty verdict.
Which leads us to the trial itself. It reads like a Kafka novel.
Oh, completely.
It was held behind closed doors. His family was barred from attending. And whenever Dr. Chen tried to defend himself, using his background in science and logic, the judge just cut him off.
Because the court wasn't actually interested in a factual debate. They had a massive hole in their case that they needed to ignore.
Right, the intent requirement.
Right. To find someone guilty of picking quarrels by spreading rumors, the law strictly requires that the defendant actively knows the information they're spreading is false.
There has to be malicious intent.
Exactly. But the prosecution had absolutely zero proof of his internal intent. No messages, no emails, no confessions saying he was purposefully spreading lies.
So in a normal legal system, the case just gets thrown out right there.
It should, but the judge used a truly shocking leap of logic.
What did they do?
The judge ruled that because Dr. Chen is a PhD with a high level of education, he, quote, should be able to distinguish right from wrong.
Oh my God.
Therefore, he must have known the posts were insulting and false.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. That judicial logic is like saying a math professor is guilty of intentional speeding just because they understand the physics of velocity.
That's a perfect analogy.
Right. It's prosecuting someone based on their demographic identity and their education level, not their actual actions.
Yeah, it completely replaces objective evidence with subjective presumption. The court basically just assumed his internal state based on his degree.
That's terrifying.
And they applied that exact same terrifying logic to the second requirement of the crime, which is the harm.
Right. The law states his actions must have caused severe public disorder.
Yes. Now, if someone causes severe public disorder, there is a footprint.
Absolutely. You would see protests or public panic, maybe some economic disruption, or at the absolute minimum, a viral online trend that crashed a server or something.
Exactly. But the prosecution provided zero evidence of any real-world consequences.
Not a single metric.
Not a single metric. No engagement data, no proof of a viral cascade, no physical events tied to his account. The court simply declared that the severe disorder existed in the ether.
Just without pointing to a single physical or digital manifestation of it.
Exactly.
I feel like most people facing a secret trial, an angry judge, and entirely fabricated evidence would just crumble and hope for mercy.
Most would, yeah.
But Dr. Chen responded like a scientist.
He really did.
From inside his prison cell, he drafted this 20,000-word blood letter. And he bypassed traditional legal arguments entirely. Instead, he relied on epistemology, advanced physics, and complex systems theory to completely dismantle the verdict.
Yeah, he started by attacking the rumor charge using the philosophy of science. To prove that the state's definition of truth was flawed, he actually brought up Gödel's incompleteness theorems.
Which is such a brilliant angle.
It really is.
For those who aren't familiar, Gödel essentially proved mathematically that any complex logical system will always contain statements that are true, but fundamentally unprovable within that system itself.
Right.
You just cannot have a perfectly closed, complete system of objective truth.
And Dr. Chen used that to point out the arrogance of the court. He argued that the court was treating human expression as this closed system where everything is binary.
Like either an objective state truth or a malicious, illegal lie.
Exactly. And then Chen layered that with Karl Popper's theory of falsifiability.
Remind me how that one works.
So Popper argued that for a claim to be considered a scientific fact, it must be possible to prove it false. If it can't be falsified, it's not a scientific statement.
So he's basically telling the judge, you cannot mathematically prove a satirical cartoon true or false.
Right. You cannot prove political philosophy true or false because these retweets lack truth values. It is mathematically impossible for them to be legally classified as rumors.
It's a fundamental category mistake.
Exactly. And after destroying the concept of the rumor, he went after the concept of the harm.
The charge that his retweets caused severe public disorder.
Yes. And this is where his specific expertise in nonlinear complex systems becomes his primary weapon. He used network topology to disprove the prosecution.
So he actually looked at how information practically travels through a network.
He did. He cited the Galton-Watson extinction theorem and avalanche dynamics.
Okay, those sound intense. What do they mean in this context?
Well, in the topology of a social network, an account with fewer than 100 followers and zero historical engagement exists in what complex systems theorists call a deep subcritical zone.
It's like trying to start a massive forest fire by dropping a single wet match onto a concrete sidewalk.
That's exactly it. The environment simply cannot sustain the reaction.
Right.
In complex systems, theorists measure something called the average branching number. That is the average number of new nodes each person shares the information with.
Okay.
If the branching number is less than 1, the spread is mathematically guaranteed to die out.
It's not just a theory.
No, it's a certainty. And because Dr. Chen's account had virtually no engagement, his branching number was vastly less than 1.
Wow.
So the mathematical probability of his retweets causing a systemic avalanche, which the court called severe public disorder, is precisely 0.
Wait, let me push back on that for a second, though.
Sure.
Because as a complex system scientist, Dr. Chen knows all about the butterfly effect, right?
Of course.
In chaotic systems, a butterfly flapping its wings in Kunming theoretically could cause a hurricane or a massive riot in Beijing.
Right. That's the popular understanding.
So couldn't the prosecution argue that even one tiny retweet holds the potential for catastrophic disorder?
Right.
Like it just takes one spark?
It's a fair question, but Dr. Chen actually anticipated that exact counter-argument.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. The butterfly effect is a simplified theoretical model for chaotic systems. But real-world modern social networks operate differently. They are what physicists call scale-free networks.
Okay, and how are those different?
Scale-free networks possess extreme robustness. They are structured around massive hub nodes like major news outlets or celebrity influencers, and then millions of tiny edge nodes, like Dr. Chen's inactive account.
Meaning they don't collapse from a single localized anomaly.
Precisely. In a scale-free network, eliminating or adding a tiny edge node does not change the macroscopic state of the system at all. His isolated retweets simply do not possess the kinetic energy required to alter the state of the entire societal network.
So he essentially proved, using the immutable laws of physics and mathematics, that he is innocent of the charges.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt.
He sends this brilliant, basically bulletproof defense to the appeals court.
Yep.
And what happens? The appeals court ignores the math entirely, right?
Yep. They dismissed his case without even granting him a hearing.
It's just wild.
And they actually went further than just dismissing it. The appellate court illegally demanded that Dr. Chen provide new evidence to prove his innocence.
Wait, rather than forcing the prosecution to actually prove his guilt.
Exactly. They completely flipped the burden of proof.
Just prove to us you didn't cause an invisible riot.
Essentially, yes. But because the human legal system failed him so spectacularly, his supporters took a very modern approach to get some kind of objective review.
Oh, this is the AI part.
Yes. They took the entire stack of case files, the statutes, the evidence, and Dr. Chen's scientific defense, and they fed them into 6 major AI language models.
We're talking about Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok, DeepSeek.
All the big ones. And when you feed the scenario into unbiased, purely logical entities, they don't feel political pressure.
Right. They just process the data.
Exactly. They cross-reference the statutory definitions of the Chinese Penal Code with the mathematical realities of network propagation. And every single one of the 6 models reached a unanimous consensus.
Which was?
That this case represents a severe miscarriage of justice and a systemic collapse of procedural law.
It's fascinating to look at how the AI models dismantled the court's arguments, too. Because they didn't just say, oh, this is unfair.
No, they were very specific.
They identified the precise structural failures. First, they flagged that category mistake we talked about.
Right.
The AI models noted that the court committed a fundamental philosophical error by substituting value judgments for factual judgments.
Yes. The court decided that certain political stances were simply unacceptable, and then they illegally treated those stances as verifiable factual lies.
Exactly. And the models also highlighted the complete destruction of the presumption of innocence, right?
They did. By demanding that Dr. Chen prove a negative, prove that he didn't cause this invisible disorder, the appellate court violated a foundational legal principle that's recognized globally.
The AIs also recognized the broader systemic threat of the placket crime itself.
How it's used as a weapon.
Yeah. They analyzed how the charge of picking quarrels and provoking trouble was weaponized in this specific instance.
To essentially criminalize free speech.
Yes. Free speech, artistic expression, academic inquiry. By using it as this catch-all tool, the court was directly violating its own constitutional protections regarding freedom of speech and scientific research.
The AI analysis really serves as a stark mirror here. It reflects how a system, when it's operating strictly on logical, legal frameworks and statutory definitions, completely rejects the outcome of this trial.
The AI only understands the law and the facts.
And the law and the facts just do not support locking a scientist in a cell for retweeting a cartoon.
No, they don't. Which I think brings us back to you listening to this.
Yeah.
Why should you care about a physicist locked in a prison cell in Kunming over a handful of unseen retweets?
It's a valid question.
Because this case represents the ultimate clash between two fundamentally incompatible languages. On one side, you have the open, falsifiable, evidence-based language of science and mathematics.
Right.
And on the other side, you have the closed, authoritarian, assertion-based language of unchecked power.
It forces us to ask a really difficult question. How does a society treat ideas that stretch beyond its current institutional comprehension?
Yeah. Do we evaluate ideas with logic and evidence, or do we just crush them with brute force simply because they challenge the status quo?
Exactly.
Think about what this implies for our own understanding of power and fragility, too. In Dr. Chen's letter, he actually poses a brilliant final thought experiment.
Oh, this is my favorite part of his defense.
It's so good.
Yeah.
He points out that if the court was actually right-like, if his single unseen edge node retweet truly possessed the kinetic energy to cause severe public disorder.
Which mathematically it doesn't, but if it did.
Right. If it did, it would mean that the entire societal system was already resting in a highly volatile, supercritical state of instability.
Wow.
In that scenario, the state itself is the powder keg.
Yeah.
And punishing a single falling leaf does absolutely nothing to stop the inevitable avalanche.